taking off, heading to the Dominican. We meant to leave like bright and early to cross the Mona Passage because we're on the west side of Puerto Rico. We were really hoping to have some really, I don't know, solid 12 to 15 knot winds the entire way. But 2 nights ago, on our passage across the north coast of Puerto Rico, the wind completely died after sunset, and I mean it was like 3 knots and the wind gauge was just spinning, so there was nothing. So we motored the whole way. It was a nice, easy, calm motor. But I'm looking at the wind today, and there's this glob of just no wind at all that's gonna follow us the entire way. I charted it out, figured out where we're gonna be, and it's like super frustrating. Finally we get to sail downwind, a nice long passage, and we're not gonna have any wind. So, you know, we might get a little bit here and there, maybe we'll throw up the spinnaker, but I mean, we're gonna be dead into like, I mean, literally it says 0 wind. 0 to maybe 7 knots of wind, which is, you know, nothing. So the goal was to leave bright and early so we could cross the Mona before the evening storms start ripping up the Mona Passage. And I don't even think that's gonna be an issue today. And even if it does, we might appreciate the wind a little bit. So I'll get the main up with a single reef in it, and that's just for stability. The single reef kind of eliminates the pocket out of the sail, and if we completely run out or the wind starts shifting, it really likes to, you know, slam to one side and slam to the other as the boat rocks. If we can keep a few knots of wind in the sail as we motor and keep a reef in it, I think that'll eliminate a lot of the flapping and then stabilize us as well. If you don't have any kind of sail up, even in calm conditions, the roll really gets annoying. So that's the whole point of, you know, getting a sail up in no wind or very little wind. We considered stopping in Samana, but we just want to get to Luperon and get settled, so that's what we're gonna do. Here's a big question. How do you secure your dinghy on a longer passage, or even on a short passage? How we do it is we have these set of davits right here. These davits are designed to fold in, but you know, obviously I built this structure for the solar panel on there, so we don't really do that. They're pretty much permanent at this point. Typically on a longer passage I would remove that motor and mount it on the rail, but since the Bahamas, we've had this girl here, and she's kind of taken up that spot. This little 2-stroke 9.8 horse isn't that heavy, so I found that I just leave it on there. It's not so bad. Back when I built the swim platform, I actually had the welder weld on this eye loop here, right here, and I can attach 2 cables, and this is just leftover lifeline cable and some other fittings, and I run one forward to a U-bolt right there. That really secures it from going forward, because this rail right here wasn't that strong. And then I run another one down sideways, and that kind of helps with the sideways motion. And I have the same setup over here. So with those 2 cables on here, it actually really makes this thing strong, even though it doesn't seem or look that like it's that beefed up. That made a huge difference. I hook up those lines, the davit lines, and then I lift the platform here. I lift it up so it's flat, and then I just kind of use the undermount ladder as a step to hop up here. I add a couple fenders off the back lifeline gate, and this kind of keeps it off of not only this motor here, which you see I've covered in fenders as well. I had some issues with some wearing on the hypalon there, so I actually had to patch that, and then I added these. But this allows me to get it nice and tight and doesn't chafe on anything. have these U-bolts here that I installed for the cable support, but those work great for dinghy attachments. Keeps the dinghy straight and solid, and it's super strong connection point. And because they're cross-strapped, I mean, this thing is solid on there, even with the motor. So these additional straps here are just for extra support for the solar panel, because once I added 2 panels that were bigger, both bigger than the one I had before, that's like an extra, I don't know, 60 pounds up there. Adding these cross straps reduces a lot of movement. It actually has been really good, even in a strong beat when we're beating into 5-footers easterlies. This is how I tie up the dinghy. And this is years of trial and error, so this is a very good setup for us here. Now we have to teach Kelly how to do it.
What?
Hi, baby.
Hi.
Are you ready?
The eggs are boiling.
Do you want to start the engine?
Teach me how to do what?
The dinghy. I got the main up.
No.
You do?
Yeah. I heard it.
I'm actually just going to pull the anchor up with just the windlass. I'm probably sitting over half our anchor chain right now anyway. I'm pretty sure it never even stretched out. Oh, here she comes. She clean? Oh yeah, clean enough. Yeah, you want to come up? You want to do sailing? Huh? He doesn't even know we're moving yet. Passage breakfast.
Yeah, easy.
So this is what I'm talking about. We're motoring at 5 to 6 knots. Wind is at about 5 knots. On our nose. Meaning we don't have any wind. Cool. Take in the slack. Yep. Yep. Can we lock it in there? We got the full main up and full chute. We got between 7 to 9 knots of wind. It's actually picking up just a little bit, and it's right off our beam. And with that chute up and the full main, we're starting to sail around 6 knots, which is awesome.
could wear a blindfold. No matter what I do, I'm coming home to you. And I don't know why, don't know why, don't know why. I'm always feeling homesick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. So it was another windless night. Yesterday evening, the wind picked up a little bit. We had the sails out, but it's just never quite enough to really fill them. We had the preventer on the main and the spinnaker pull out for the jib, but you know, it was bouncing between 4 to 8 knots and more like 4 to 6 knots on the wind meter, and that's just not enough to fill those sails. And so, like middle of the night last night, I mean, the wind meter's just spinning at like 2 knots, meaning there's nothing, absolutely nothing. So Arthur doesn't mind the calm though. Yeah.
The Adventures of King Arthur.
Look at King Arthur as he signals to his servant that a trip to the loo is of utmost importance. Typically, a good king refuses to relieve himself without the proper bush, tree, or well-maintained patch of Bermuda grass. Extended efforts by his exhausted servants have been made to convince the king that anywhere on deck is sufficient. But King Arthur is quite particular and stubborn. So much so that Arthur insists he be taken to shore, demanding his servant drop the dinghy. Reluctantly, the servant refuses. Furious, King Arthur walks away knowing he is at the mercy of his servant, as he had never learned to sail himself. But after 24 hours, desperation overtakes him. In an impressive display, this little king expels all of the royal pee, all over the royal deck, the royal paws, and the royal jib sheets. King Arthur will get his way, or get his revenge. Something his undeserving servants should consider before their next overnight passage.
Along the north coast of the Dominican Republic, a series of squalls began to develop in the distance. We were thankful for the wind and the boost of speed, but not the ominous clouds on the horizon. Oh, I just saw lightning. That is not good. Yeah, I saw it. Kind of sailing faster than this little storm, so it makes me nervous. I don't want to sail into it. But I don't want to slow down either, because then we'll be taking that inlet in the dark. Like dark. So we are like an hour from Luperon. The day before yesterday, we left a little late. I'd say about 2 hours late. And now I really wish we had that 2 hours, because now we have to pull into Luperon Harbor in the dark. So we've been through there before. It's pretty well marked, but they're not lit up. And it's a lot of boats in there now, I think, and it's gonna be a little tricky. And then hooking up to our mooring too, that might be a little tricky. So, really wish you had that 2 hours back. Just watched the final sunset. Overall, not a bad little cruise.
I must try to figure it out anyway. Songs of worries travel with the storm, but I must try to figure it out alone. Yeah, I must try to figure it out alone. And now,
Ever wonder what happens when the camera is off? Every video we post gets its own blog post with the juicy details and unseen pictures. Check it out on sailingsatori.life. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You won't want to miss what's coming up.